Live from the postgame podium after Game 4 of the WNBA Finals, a remarkable night for the ages in almost every way you can imagine. A'ja Wilson and the Las Vegas Aces are champions. Jonquel Jones, Breanna Stewart, and the New York Liberty will have to wait another year. We're going to talk all about it. Locked On Women's Basketball starts now.
Ogunbowale for the win.
You are Locked On Women's Basketball, your daily podcast on women's basketball.
Well, hi there, everyone, and welcome to Locked On Women's Basketball. I'm Howard Megdal.
And I'm Jackie Powell.
And we are coming to you live from Barclays Center, right on the podium where A'ja Wilson had more than one adult beverage and celebrated a remarkable championship, the second straight championship for the Las Vegas Aces. Listeners at home, let's just go through a couple of things that means. This is the first repeat champion here in the WNBA since the 2001-2002 Los Angeles Sparks, a gap of 21 years. This took place in a 70-69 win, despite the fact that the Aces were missing not only Chelsea Gray, the heartbeat of this team, their point guard, but Kia Stotts as well, who does such important things for this team, especially on the defensive end. It didn't matter. It didn't matter that they needed 30 minutes out of Kayla George on a night where Kayla George took 10 3-point shots. It didn't matter that they needed 14 minutes and 44 seconds from renowned television star Sydney Colson. The Las Vegas Aces, and there's a story right now over at thenexthoops.com you can read about that I filed. They didn't have their usual offense. They didn't have their usual defense. All they had was will, and it was enough. Thank you to all our listeners all year. I had a lovely run-in with a woman named Jennifer outside of Barclays Center on my way into the arena, who recognized my voice, who said she loves to listen, not just to me, but more importantly, to the great Jackie Powell. She literally used the phrase, the great Jackie Powell. And it just sort of resonated again with me that we have had over 100,000 of you listen month after month after month throughout this WNBA season. We have so much college basketball coming your way. Subscribe wherever you get your podcast to us, and make sure you subscribe to The Next. $9 a month, $72 a year, thenexthoops.com. So much to get into here. And in segment one, we're going to be talking all about your champions, your very happy champions. The entire team flooded into the media room. We got to ask them lots of questions, talking all about it. Segment two, we're going to talk about the Liberty. Not as much reporting that we're going to get to talk about. Liberty flagrantly violated media rules, only made two players and head coach Sandy Brondello available at the podium. It is a loss for everyone who cares about this team. I saw the great Bruce Beck on my way out here to record the podcast. Bruce Beck on television, an institution here in New York, didn't get material for it to be on TV. Scores of television channels that could have covered the New York Liberty tonight did not, because the New York Liberty were not available to those media who showed up. And I got news for everybody. We'll be here, but a whole lot of people might not come back. But let's start by talking about the New York Liberty's opponent, the Las Vegas Aces. And I have to begin with A'ja Wilson. We have to talk about it. Jackie, when you think about what A'ja Wilson did tonight, 24 points, 16 rebounds, an incredible defensive job on Jonquel Jones, who has been unstoppable throughout this playoffs and really throughout since June. How surprised were you that we were able to find somebody capable of making those defensive adjustments here tonight?
I mean, she's the defensive player of the year, two-time defensive player of the year. It is notable that if you look at the box score, which I'm currently looking at right now, Jonquel Jones had 8 shots.
Yeah.
8 shots. Out of all the starters, that was the least amount of shots. And that's a function of a couple of things. It's a function of A'ja Wilson making it very hard for Jonquel to get touches. It's also a function of the Liberty were so flustered that they couldn't move the ball to get it to her. Or when they tried to, the Aces were ready for it. Sandy Brondello said that the Liberty did not play at their best, and we'll talk a little bit more about exactly what that means later. But A'ja Wilson noticed, and she took advantage.
She played her best. What did she say? She said, I finished 3rd in MVP voting. Thank you, because it ended up fueling me to get a title. One of my favorite things out of A'ja Wilson talking to us post-game was the way in which she discussed her meeting with Dawn Staley. And just to give the readers, the listeners, a sense of this, well, hopefully they read too. But Dawn Staley came out onto the court. She did not surprise A'ja Wilson. She texted her, she said, I'm coming, I'm going to be here. She heads on in. She's on the court right after it's over. A'ja takes her in her arms, lifts her up in the air. A'ja's a little bigger than Dawn. And then what did they talk about? They talked about how you're here and now it's time. You're here and now you're doing what we both knew you were capable of doing. It was just this beautiful moment. And I couldn't help but think back to, I remember a moment with Dawn Staley back when A'ja was still in college. And what she was saying to me that day, it was a NCAA media day. And what Dawn was saying to me was, I got to get her ready, not just for our season, but for all her seasons that come after that. And that vision was there tonight. A'ja Wilson was finding a way to make sure that she fulfilled the destiny Dawn Staley helped lay out for her. I would be remiss, though, not to point out Jackie Young played 37 minutes, 28 seconds. She was her usual efficient self. 16 points. She did it on only 11 shots, 7 assists. No point guard, no problem. Jackie Young, 7 assists. Kelsey Plum, another 5 assists. They managed to put it together on a day they only were able to play 7 people, and really 6. KB, Kirsten Bell, only 1:49. Elena Coates didn't play in this one, and the depth didn't come back to haunt them. Jackie, how many times have we talked about this? But I just have to say it. I thought that their depth would ultimately be their undoing against a team with depth like the New York Liberty, and that's not the way this went.
No. What's interesting, I just want to bounce off your Jackie Young point and then get into that about the Liberty's depth and how they didn't really show up tonight.
And we'll do that in segment 2, but please, Jackie Young first.
Jackie Young. So Jackie Young, if you all remember, the first year, her rookie year, 2019, when she was drafted to the Aces, Bill Laimbeer had her playing the 1. And it was a little tricky. She was uncomfortable. I mean, anyone would be. Like a rookie who isn't a natural point guard playing the 1. And she struggled. And so it really is really striking to me in the year of 2023 that Jackie Young is able to tally the most guard assists for the Aces with Chelsea Gray out. It's
just growth. It's just continued growth. And again, I talked about this earlier in the postseason. Muffet McGraw, who is not wrong on many things, check her Twitter account today for more details of what I mean. Muffet McGraw said she had a chance to be the best player in the history of the Notre Dame program, which is a big statement considering the Jewel Lloyd, Skylar Diggins-Smith, Ruth Riley, I could go on, have played for Notre Dame as well. But it is a remarkable thing to see, and Jackie Young absolutely deserves this championship as she did the last one. As for the New York Liberty, more to talk about in segment 2. But first, here to talk to you guys about Jace Medical. And, look, we are living in a time of uncertainty in the world, whether it's unrest in the Middle East, fires in Hawaii, hurricanes and tornadoes in Florida, earthquakes and more. They can all lead to supply chain shortages for medications, the inability to get medications in a timely manner. Now, the Jace case is a personalized emergency medication kit that contains 5 essential antibiotics that treat the most common and deadly bacterial infections. You're able, of course, to go get this by going to jacemedical.com. You can even get an extra $20 off by using code Locked On. That's promo code LOCKEDON at jasemedical.com. So even as this was the moment of glory and championship moment for the Las Vegas Aces, this was a moment coming just short of what they set out to do for the New York Liberty. And Jackie and I were talking about this on our way down here to postgame avail, and I do think it's important to remember some things. This is a team that made massive strides forward. This is a historic year for the New York Liberty and will be no matter what came next. 32-8 and reaching the WNBA Finals for the first time in 21 years, first time since Becky Hammon herself was in the New York Liberty uniform. It really speaks to a year that their fans will remember. I will say nothing short of remarkable the way those fans showed out in both Game 3 and Game 4. 17,143 in Game 3, 16,851. Both are sellouts here. I don't ever really know exactly why it's not the same number all the time, but across sports, it's never the same number. Here's what it was. It was loud. Every seat was occupied, and it was loud. But they didn't get there. And Jackie, you had a chance to ask Breanna Stewart and Courtney Vandersloot about it after the game. Take me through just your initial impressions on what you heard from them.
It reminded me a little bit of how stunned Breanna Stewart was after Game 2.
Mm-hmm.
The difference was she was able to look at us. There were moments where she had to put her hand maybe in front of her face like this a little bit.
Yeah.
But the answers from Breanna Stewart were short. She was stunned.
Mm-hmm.
I'm looking at my notes. They both were sniffling, both
Yeah.
Courtney Vandersloot and Breanna Stewart. They were clearly very impacted by the emotional weight of what just happened. Courtney Vandersloot was feeling it especially because she was the one who missed the final shot that would have brought this series to a Game 5. Breanna Stewart, obviously, she was 3 for 17 from the field. So probably she was very angry at those results as well.
I have to tell you that boggles my mind. And as somebody who has had the privilege of covering Breanna Stewart for her entire career, what I spent this postseason looking for, what I thought would happen in this postseason was there would be a Breanna Stewart offensive explosion. This is somebody who had 3 40-point games in this season alone, and I expected it. I am surprised that in this game, I mean, it's easy to say, but if Breanna Stewart has her typical offensive game, we are heading to Las Vegas for a Game 5. And, it's
So Liberty hit some layups, or
I mean,
their layups too.
there's that too. I mean, that number is
Let's look at the number.
remarkable to me. And and the final was 12 of 29 shooting in the paint, 41.4%. It's just easy to put the math there because it's a 1-point game. And again, in a 1-point game, there's no shortage of potential reasons for it to happen. But yes, to come just short like they did was very, very surprising in light of the way it happened. Again, it goes back to the same thing with John Paul Jones, 8 shot attempts, and, massive credit to the Las Vegas Aces defense, but not finding a way to get that. Maureen Johannes 0 for 2. Again, Maureen Johannes, if she hits a single 3, I'm not trying to lay this at anyone's feet. I'm saying it's this close to a championship, but that is
This close to a
unfortunately
Game 5, you mean?
fair enough to a Game 5.
Yes.
But this close to a championship too, when you talk about a team that was capable of doing so much. And again, Breanna Stewart, 14 rebounds, 5 assists,
Yeah.
2 steals.
It wasn't like she wasn't trying.
It wasn't like it was not for a lack of effort.
No.
It was not for a lack of intensity. Breanna Stewart understands how to win. Jonquil Jones understands how to win. It's the lousy nonsense arguments that people try to make where they talk about, it was, who wanted it more. It's not about who wanted it more. They both wanted it, but, ultimately who can manifest their will into making those plays. And ultimately, it did not happen here tonight for the Liberty.
And also, Howard, I'm sorry to interrupt.
Please,
but I think it's also about who has experience in the trenches together.
Mm-hmm.
This team is very new in this type of situation.
No doubt.
And I just want to go back to the emotion I felt from Breanna Stewart and Courtney Vandersloot.
Mm-hmm.
Someone asked, what is your level of disappointment right
Right.
now? And both of them just used one word, and one word only. And as you just said, it was high.
Yeah.
And
No question
the
about it.
way in which they said it was
So
striking.
it very much was. So the bottom line, again, as we think through to what it means for 2024, is that there are some real questions about who returns and how. And so I want to get into that right after this. But first,
it's just for your Zoom monitor.
want to talk to you guys, of course, about FanDuel. And FanDuel has a remarkable offer opportunity for you right now. New customers get $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place a $5 bet. That is $200 in bonus bets, win or lose. So if you've been thinking about joining FanDuel, there's no better time to get in on the action. The app is very easy to use. There's a wide range of betting options, including spreads, player props, over, under, and more. And we have a deal for you. FanDuel.com/locked on. That's how you get it. $5 bet, $200 bonus bets guaranteed. Visit FanDuel and make sure that you're enjoying FanDuel, the official partner of the NFL. So just as we close out this portion of the show, it's important, I think, to get a sense of what the New York Liberty have to figure out now. Sandy talked about adding some potential pieces.
She did? I don't
She
even
did.
remember. I
She
was
was
just so dazed, Howard.
Just talking around, adding around the core. But here's the deal. Breanna Stewart is an unrestricted free agent. So Jonquil Jones is an unrestricted free agent. That's before you even get into Stephanie Dolson being an unrestricted free agent. And by the way, Jocelyn Willoughby being an unrestricted free agent. So some questions to answer. Benijah Laney, Courtney Vandersloot under contract for next year.
Kayla Thornton.
Most importantly, Kayla Thornton and Sabrina Ionescu signing those extensions. So not just for 2024, but as to your point about how do you get the continuity that the Las Vegas Aces have? You get it by keeping that core group together. Job 1A and 1B, and I don't even know in which order, are you make sure Jonquil Jones and Breanna Stewart are back with this team. Do you see, if you had to pick one additional facet that this team needed to add, what do you see it as?
Perimeter defense.
Okay. Yeah, I think you got it. I think that's where I am on it too, because this team had everything else in a year that it went 32-8 and did remarkable things. So I just want to thank our listeners for all of your support all year. It's been a wonderful thing. Jackie, any final thoughts on the New York Liberty before we clear on out of here?
I do have some final thoughts, Howard.
Please.
Thank you for telling me that. I just want to share with our listeners what I was able to report tonight after the podium.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a very limited amount, but I do want to share and I want to tell you all why it was a limited amount. So first of all, usually what happens after we speak to a couple players and a coach on the podium here where we're sitting, we then get to we can request other players. And
can I just jump in here? In the NBA, locker rooms are open. You walk in, you speak to whoever you need to speak to, you're treated like an adult, and you're allowed to complete the work of covering the league. The same is true in Major League Baseball, in the NFL, in others as well. There are people around the league who work hard to make that happen, but it is a function as well of the rules needing to be followed.
Yes, thank you, Howard, for providing that context. And so, with what the rules are, I was going to scrum, and I had requested a couple of players, obviously Benijah Laney, Jonquel Jones, Sabrina Ionescu. Those are starters that, they played a big role in this game. We sort of wanted to hear how they were feeling. Obviously, they weren't going to be feeling great at all, but in order for us to do our jobs, that's what we need. And so I'm standing there waiting. What I can report for you all was that once Courtney Vandersloot left the room, her wife, Allie Quigley, was there waiting for her. And she basically opened her arms and enveloped Courtney in this very tender, big hug. And Courtney started to cry a little bit.
And getting those emotions for everyone who cared about this team this year, for everyone who cares about this league this year, the wins and the losses, and making sure that we can accurately do this. I can speak for Jackie, I think, on this when I say we don't enjoy talking to people in their down moments. It's not that. It is about making sure that we are sharing those stories with everyone who cares about it. And that didn't happen tonight. It is disappointing. It is not universal. There are good people throughout this league who understand the importance of it. And I'm going to call on all of them to raise their voices and to try and make sure that what's gone in a direction that has made things more difficult to tell these stories changes, because we're all here ready to do it. So thank you. Thank you, Jackie, for the care in which you put into everything you did this season and every season that we've had a chance to work together.
Thank you, Howard. Yeah, I got to observe them leaving the locker room, entering the locker room, but that was it.
We will continue to do all we can do, and we'll bring those stories to you, and we will never stop bringing those stories to you. So until tomorrow,
Howard, I'm sorry,
please go ahead.
I think we need to make it clear that the usual scrum sessions that we have were canceled tonight.
Yes.
And so I just wanted
Forgive me. Yes.
I think the listeners would be sort of confused, but wait, Jackie was observing what happened.
Didn't get to talk to. Yeah.
Didn't get to talk to anyone. I mean, Sabrina Ionescu left the locker room with a hood above her head in a sweatsuit, and she turned right and made a beeline.
These things, to tell these stories properly, these things need to change. They need to conform to what professional sports do.
Yeah.
Or we all lose.
Yes.
We all lose.
The fans lose.
The fans lose most of all.
You do. The listeners. Everyone loses.
Raise your voice to this if this is something you care about. Until then, and I will be here for all of it, I'm Howard Megdal.
And I'm Jackie Powell.
Wishing all of you a wonderful night. We will see you tomorrow.
Ogunbowale for the win.
You are Locked On Women's Basketball, your daily podcast on women's basketball.